Joining me now is Eric Mandel, the director of the Middle East Political Information Network. Eric, thanks for being with us. Eric, this move has received widespread condemnation. Senator Paul, probably the exception there amongst Americans. Why is it such a bad strategic mistake?
So this is a grave policy error that undermines national security interests. I was in the Senate yesterday for 10 hours speaking to foreign policy experts on both sides of the aisle, and the impulsiveness of this decision, the suddenness, the creation of chaos is very dangerous in this part of the world. So let's break this down. So we have the Kurds.
Right.
They were our allies. We asked them to create the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now we are abandoning them. The Kurds have basically told us that the Turks want to ethnically cleanse them. We've seen that in Afrin. So we could have another humanitarian disaster there. Second, we've empowered Iran, which this president clearly has said is against American national security interests. There are now 3 land corridors open that you're going to be able to have weapons to go from Iran directly to Hezbollah, which undermines Israel. And if the president believes in a big deal, this was really a terrible deal. We had so much bang for the buck for having only 2,000 troops there and stopping Iran.
Well, it's a lot to break down here, but let's just play devil's advocate here. Firstly, with regards to the troops, the president was essentially put in a position where he was forced to choose between Turkey and the Kurds. Turkey, which has 80 million people, the second largest army in NATO, and the Kurds, whilst good allies, are without a state, can't really help the U.S. in any way. The president has said America first, and making a deal with Turkey, which seems to be one of the reasons that this decision was made, does align America with potentially a better ally.
Well, first of all, Turkey, as the eastern flank of NATO, has been a terrible friend to the United States. There's been anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism, anti-Westernism. This man has jailed more journalists than anybody else in the world. So this is, as I would generously say, he's a frenemy of us. And so because the Turks look at any Syrian Kurd, the YPG, is part of what they consider the PKK, which is the terrorists that are designated by also the United States and Turkey, that they want to get rid of. This is very similar to what Turkey did many years ago in northern Cyprus. They want to take over northern Syria, just like they took over northern Cyprus. This is not a choice. This is about American values of protecting friends. And the message around the world to our allies that reverberates is that America is unreliable to its allies.
Not disagreeing with you, just presenting the other side of this argument. Let's talk about those 2,000 troops, though, because essentially, what were they doing there? One could argue it's only 2,000 troops. It's not that significant. And their mission was not to contain Iran. Their mission was to help defeat ISIS, which in a way helps Iran. That this was part of the Obama administration's plan to cozy up to Iran as its strategic partner in the Middle East. And whilst he's negotiating the nuclear deal, he sent in troops to help Iran defeat ISIS as another way to garner favor with the Iranians. So in a way, this is bad for Iran. Does that have any merit?
Very, very little. Basically, ISIS is the defeatable enemy. It's not gone. It's actually reconstituting in Iraq near Kurdistan. But Iran is the primary enemy of the United States in this region.
So to that point, defeating ISIS helps Iran. Is it not better to just let Iran now have to deal with it and not have the U.S. do its work for it?
The permanent entrenchment of Iran is magnitudes of order more dangerous for American national security interests than ISIS. Now, if we defeat ISIS totally, which I hope we can, which is called Daesh in that part of the region, another Sunni jihadist head will grow there. But this Shiite Islamism that is backed up by Russia, that is backed up by Syria, that is Hezbollah as their direct proxy, is destabilizing the region and undermines our interests and our allies in the region.
What does this mean for Israel?
Well, Israel has never asked for foreign fighters to ever fight its battles. Israel was, and will be the only true force that can hit Iran. The question is, will flights, as they've been doing now, be enough? When America was in Al-Tanf and Dar al-Zor and Manbij, which stopped Turkish aggression and Iranian expansionism, that stopped Iran from coming in. Now, Israel is going to be facing Iran entrenched. They've already ethnically cleansed southern Syria. They've repopulated them with Afghani, Pakistani, Iraqi, Shiites, Hezbollah families that have been naturalized as Syrian citizens, which means that the Russian promise that they were going to have many kilometers between the Israeli Golan and Iran is now gone. So Israel is going to be facing a much more dangerous. This is the existential issue for Israel.
And of course, this also puts Russia in a far more dominant power position in the Middle East with the U.S. out. So Defense Secretary James Mattis clearly objecting to this, resigning. Who do you think a possible replacement could be? If the president needs someone that is aligned with this thinking, and that is that the U.S. should get out of the Middle East, who are the candidates?
Well, maybe it's Rand Paul, which would be a very dangerous proposition. I think, the idea of of American troops coming home is okay, and you can make that case, but it was just the way it was done. So the next defense chief is going to say, how much independence do I have? Is the president going to agree with me one day and then the next day talk to a foe like Erdogan and overrule me? I mean, John Bolton had said 3 months ago that the mission had expanded. He's undermined him. He's undermined Pompeo. I was in the Senate, as I said yesterday. I spoke on both sides of the aisle. One of the biggest questions was there was no preparation for this very important decision. And so who would want to take over that defense post knowing that the president could undermine them in any part? I don't think that is a great prospect for the best of candidates.
It's a puzzling decision by the president indeed. Eric, thanks for being with us. Happy holidays.
Happy
Eric
holidays,
Mandel.
pleasure.